Hi guys, Tom Mills here. We did another live stream last night. I'm doing another one. You guys are getting spoiled. I love doing them too, so we give people a chance to join up here and see that we're live. Good to see you. Who's all here? There's Jennifer and Beatrice, Holly. Special guest isn't Thomas. Special guest isn't April either. Okay. Well, you'll see soon enough. He's just a good friend of mine. Give people a couple seconds to join up and see that we're live. Oh, hey, Juliana. Says it wasn't live till 11:50. Oh, did I have the wrong time on there for some reason? Oh, good to see everybody. Oh, look, everybody's guessing new girlfriend. I kind of suspected that would happen, but that's okay. It's good. It's a good plug. Good to see Foxy One, Tanya, Rachel, Kimberly,
Hey,
Keely,
everybody.
Sandy. Good to see everyone.
Cindy the
This is moving up pretty fast.
Pace the sub.
Good to see everyone. It's not Chad. It's 9:50. I was like, good night. It said 9. It was weird. It said 9:50 p.m. Oh wait, it's not 9:50 p.m. No. Wait, what? All right. Well, whatever. The scheduling thing only works half the time, anyways. Some people don't even know when I schedule it. They don't even see it. It'll pop up. It won't pop up. They all see it when it's actually live. So. Yep, some people who were on the live stream last night already know who it is. So I'm going to introduce you guys to a friend of mine. He's just a real good personal friend of mine named Daniel Rogers. And I met him at our Preterist Pilgrim Weekend conference. You know, we've seen that in the channel a couple of times where we go to that. That's where we go talk about all those preteristy stuff I've kind of hinted to you guys all about. People who are watching the Bible study are probably pretty familiar with that is already. And well, I guess we can talk about why you met. I mean, why did you bring him on in here? Let's see here. There he is.
Hey,
That's
everybody.
Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Hello, everybody.
Can you guys hear him? Hear him, see him, all that jazz. I'm known for saying all that jazz a lot. Oh, Sal, what's up, man? And Abigail, good to see ya. It's a guy. You were wrong. See? Yes, it's not that kind of announcement, I promise you. Oh, yep. No, he's just a good friend of mine.
But I am pretty, so.
That's right. See, well, yep. So my goal is to give him a little exposure. He's a very great guy. He's a good friend, and I don't agree with many preachers. I think if we recall, probably when we were at Preterist Pilgrim Weekend, you probably heard me complain about most of the preachers most of the time. But I agree with Daniel Rogers a whole lot. And like, I think we agree on like 95% of things, which is really surprising for me. So, and I'm trying to get him to 1,000 subscribers. So that's ultimately what this is going to be about. We'll have fun talking. And so go check out his channel and subscribe to him if you haven't. But yeah, so what are you doing on your channel? What's your channel about, Daniel?
Yeah, so, well, we record and stream all of our Bible studies at church. So it's like we have 4 streams a week that are about 30 minutes to 45 minutes long each week. But when I'm free, I like to do little live streams and live studies and things like that. And sometimes I upload videos of my son Caden. Because my channel up to this point was sort of an alternative to Facebook until I rejoined Facebook a few months ago. And so it was how my family would see videos of the baby. So, I post all kinds of stuff like that. Hey,
You were doing live streams of the services. Are you still doing those?
yeah, all of them. All of them are streamed. Just
Okay,
not our
all right.
singing. We just skip the singing and goes to the preaching. So
Yeah, you get all kinds of problems with copyright stuff.
yeah,
But,
well, there's other reasons too. I don't want people to hear
yeah.
me sing. So
Yeah, well, yeah. Ours, when we're home church, we just do the whatever commercial songs, so I couldn't get away with it. We actually tried to do a live stream service here once, and I realized, oh crap, I can't do that. Although actually, did you know copyright law protects worship? Did you know that?
really, I didn't know that.
It absolutely does. There's a clause in the United States copyright law that protects if you're using it for worship, you can use any copyrighted material free of charge.
Huh, interesting.
It's neat.
I know that some churches have to have like a little number that they put at the bottom of their PowerPoint.
That's
like
a CCLI.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder why they're even necessary.
Yeah,
If it's explicitly protected for worship, why do you need such a service? I wanted to ask that question over and over again, but
money, I guess. More money.
I suppose.
Yeah.
I think there were some issues about, like, if you hand out the songs, like in the words in like a bulletin or something, and it's no longer worship at that point because you take it home.
Yeah.
So, something like that. But
well, yeah, but if we understand.
So, I didn't give you his channel. So,
sure.
It's Daniel Rogers. I put a link in the description below this video. So if you hit the little arrow to the side of the video, it shows the description about what the video is about. His link is there. I'm also going to put it in chat right now. And I will put a link to a comment. I will make a comment and then pin it to the top with his channel on there. Everybody should go subscribe to him. Let's try to get him to 1,000. That'd be awesome. But I'm trying to remember when the first time me and you met. Was it like 2 years ago or three years ago?
I don't think you came to the one in 2017, right? I think you went to the one in 2018.
Yeah.
Because that's when Chad was there. Was. Yeah, and he was still doing the video presentations at that point, like the camera captures and everything.
Right.
And I think the reason why you and I hit it off, and I don't even know if you'll remember this or not. Do you know how many brothers and sisters I have?
No, I forgot. You have a big family too?
I have 9 brothers and sisters.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Now it's a little bit different.
1 of 10. Man, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm the oldest.
I completely forgot that.
Yeah, I'm the oldest of 10. So we have my parents are foster parents, and so we ended up adopting 6 kids when I was in high school.
That's so.
Yeah, we went from a family of 4 kids to 10 kids. Me being the oldest. So yeah.
Wow, I did not realize that. I'm trying to remember. I mean, I see a lot of people at those conferences, right?
Right.
And I'm trying to remember why I think we were talking in the lobby. I think we were staying up late and talking. Oh, that's what it was. Chad introduced me to you, I think.
Yeah, and IHOP. That's where we got.
Yeah. Really that's what it was. This is an IHOP, and I remember bringing up some topics, and I got some controversial views on some verses, and you were like, "Oh, that's actually interesting." And I usually don't get that response, I think, to certain things.
Well, I wasn't given a shot with my views a lot of times from some of my family and things like that. So anytime somebody wants to talk about something, I always try to give them a shot.
Oh yeah, for sure, and that goes a long way too. And I've read several of your posts I've seen, and I've heard you preach a few times at the PPW, and they're all really good, and it's been a lot of fun. And I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it was who all was there that first time? Was it William Bell the first time or the second time?
Yeah, so it was at that sitting around the table that night. It was me, you, William Bell, Kyle Elliott, which is a friend of mine, Chad, and then there were a couple of people there that they attend all the conferences like that. So, well, hello.
Oh, hold on a second. See, this is what happens on live. Hello. Okay, go give that to Asher. It's my son from work. I don't know if he needs something or something. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. Hey, it's what happens whenever you stream with family. Sometimes, when I'm doing a little live stream in here, you can just hear the baby playing in the other room, and sometimes he'll come in and she'll be like, "Can you hold him for a second?" So
those
totally
are good
cool.
times though. Those ones, that's awesome when kids are around.
Yeah. A lot of fun.
That's cool. By the way, your baby's awesome. He's really, really cute. I love that picture on your channel, Art. It's like a super good picture.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, we got pictures made whenever he was just a couple months old, and then we got them remade again when he turned a year. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I'm trying to remember. Was your wife pregnant that last time at PPW? How old is he now?
So he is about to be 14 months old tomorrow, actually, on the 6th.
Oh, okay. So no, she must have been pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that would have been 2019 in June.
Well, it would have been 2020 because it's 20. Yeah, so it would have been 2020, but we didn't have
conference.
No,
because I didn't do anything in 2020. 2020 was worthless to me. I didn't do anything that year.
Yeah. We had.
So it had to have been 2019 because Andrea was there.
Oh right, but she wouldn't have been pregnant in 2019.
Yeah. I think she was pregnant at the time.
Because
link in the description didn't work for you. Okay, hold on. Link's not working. Let me grab it again here. Let's see. Try that one.
We didn't have a conference in 2020, did we? Because it was all
No,
virtual.
I don't think so.
Oh yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's right.
So it's okay. I'm putting the link in the description again.
I was looking at when I moved down to Florida, and it's always last year. It's that's how I think of it. It's definitely last year. No, it was like 3 or 4 years ago. So
Sure.
yeah,
Amazing. Yeah. The last year didn't. It's just like it was a blur to me, but it works now. Okay, good. I'm not sure what happened. It's just the same link I thought, but sorry about that. So if you're just new and joining in, we've got 250 people here now. This is my good friend Daniel Rogers, and we met at Preterist Pilgrim Weekend at our religious conference thing about preterism, more eschatology conference. A few years ago, and I hit it off. I really liked him a lot, and we stayed up all night talking, and I think it was like 4 a.m. or something like that when we quit, and it was super fun.
And
so.
I had to speak the next morning.
Yeah, you did. I could not believe that. I kept saying you should go to bed. You're like, no, I'm good. But you did well that time, so it worked out good.
I mean, I run off hardly any sleep most of the time, anyways. So kind of works out. We'll see. So because of the COVID stuff, I'm a stay-at-home dad. I was working in business-to-business sales. Well, when all the businesses are closed down, there's not much you can do, right? And so,
oh man, yeah.
So my wife was actually going to quit her teaching job and stay home full time with the baby, but we kind of had to switch because teaching is a static income, whereas sales is variable. And since we didn't have any idea of what was going to happen, she had to go back to work, and so I'm a stay-at-home dad right now. And so, I usually run on fumes because by the time she gets home, we eat dinner together. Then it's about time for the baby to get ready to go to bed anyways, and so they're kind of winding down. And so all of my work that I get done is like from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. So.
Oh, believe me, I totally feel your pain, man. It's the same thing. I'm a stay-at-home dad now too, and it's only stay-at-home and go to work dad.
Yeah.
I'm not a stay-at-home dad. I'm a go to work dad, but then I have to do all the stuff at home when I get home too. So. But yeah, so pretty neat. So there's lots of other little things you got going too. You had we talked about getting you going on computer repair stuff. You still looking at doing that?
Yeah, that's right. So we're still trying to figure out a good way to replace her income in the current sales environment. And so the opportunity to go back into I was selling copy machines to businesses is open back up. But I would honestly rather work for myself, kind of like you do with the computer repair.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. It's wonderful.
Right. So you gave.
So were you selling like a certain brand of copiers, or was it all kinds of different ones?
We had like 2 or 3 brands that we mainly sold.
So it was like an office supply thing.
Yeah, I worked with Toshiba and Lexmark mainly.
Yeah.
But I could also sell like Sharp and Brother as well. So most of the time though, you would want to sell like either a Toshiba or Lexmark because they had the most benefits for the customer and also for the salesman. So yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. And so someone mentioned that you look young, and you are young for a preacher. How old are you again?
Yeah, so I just turned 28 on January 6th, which is also my son's birthday when he turned 1. So.
Oh wow! You guys share a birthday?
We do.
Oh, that's so cool.
We do. Yeah, barely. He got here like 2 hours to spare.
That means your birthday's going to get erased, and it's going to be all about him for the most part.
See, that's what you think. But now people call me to tell me happy birthday because they want to tell him happy birthday. So now they remember what my birthday is.
You get both. They all have to do it one time. That's always nice when you get one call to do 2 birthday people. So
and I'm guaranteed cake now. So
that's true.
If it's got Daniel Tiger on it, hey, that works for me. I'm okay with that. It's still cake.
So I don't know if I know his name.
Caden, Cayden.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We Thomas's best friend is a Caden also, but it's Caeden, which is different.
Well, some people spell Caden wrong, and that's all right.
That's all right. Exactly right.
Hey, so I have somebody asking me. I guess it's from your channel because I'm live as well, just to help them find me easier. Lisa Ryder asks, did I grow up in a Christian home, and will I tell everyone how I became a preacher? So
that's awesome.
If you don't mind, go for it.
Yeah.
So I did grow up in a Christian home. I was super super strict in attending services on Sunday and Wednesday and VBS. I mean, you didn't miss unless you like had an arm hanging off or something, and even then they would try to patch it up real quick and get you in there. But yeah, I grew up in a Christian home and had a lot of great experiences, a lot of great contacts. And when I was in college, I was riding on the transit bus. I went to Auburn University, taking some classes in software engineering, and I was riding on the transit bus and I was trying to read through the Bible, and I got to Ecclesiastes, and I was just reading, vanity of vanities, says the preacher, all is vanity. You know, and what does it gain, all the labor that you do under the sun? And I realized...
Labor not in vain was your little slogan.
Yeah, exactly. Labor not in vain, you're right. And so I realized that, you know, my aspirations to have a big house and a lot of cars and, you know, all the money, the software engineering, developing apps and stuff like that was cool. But at the end of the day, you know, would I want to die, would I want to die with a lot of money in my bank account, or, you know, knowing that I'd served God through being a minister the best that I could? And so my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, we'd only been dating for maybe 2 weeks. She sent me a message, and she said, on Skype actually, and she said, that was probably the last time I used Skype. She said, hey, you know, you told me about how you're wanting to be a preacher because you've been reading Ecclesiastes and you're really rethinking your life and, you know, what you want to prioritize. Yeah. Well, I've been talking to every congregation in our area. She lived about 2 hours away from me. And she said, there's a guy that's going to call you this Friday. They have a position open up. And they
she was being your wife already, man.
Yeah, well, she got me to move up near her real quickly. So I dropped out of Auburn University, and I started attending a community college. And my schedule at my first preaching job, I would go to community college from 8:30 in the morning until about 3:30 in the afternoon. I would work at Walmart from 4:30 to 12:30 a.m. and then I would give 3 lessons a week for about $600 a month. So
wow.
So that was the origins of my preaching career, and so
that's so fun.
Oh yeah. Well,
I can see why you married her, man. She was good for you already.
Oh yeah, for sure. And she has been, and she is. Without her, there's nothing I wouldn't be able to do what I do.
I wouldn't be in business if it wasn't for Andrea making me in business. I mean, she's the one that kept saying, you should go start a business for yourself. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't make money doing that. And
right.
And I think I shared with you, there was a guy who at the time I was selling furniture, and there was a guy there who in my mind knew more about computers than I did. And I told him what I was going to do, and he said, I tried that, but there's no money in it. And I was like, what? Are you kidding? I thought I was so heartbroken. And then later on, I did it anyways, and it turned out it worked. And later on, like years later, he's like, "What are you doing these days?" I'm still doing the computer business. And he was like, his jaw hit the floor, and he's like, "Oh, are you hiring?" Which ran around full circle. It was super fun. But yeah, without our wives, I don't know what we wouldn't get nothing done, and I wouldn't be in business for myself. If I wasn't in business for myself, I don't know how I would be surviving right now as a dad of 9. So.
Yeah, wow.
But they're so good for us. So, but may say what preterism again. Well, I've kind of tiptoed around it a little bit for you guys. So anybody who's been watching the Bible study has got the whole inside scoop, because we did Matthew 24, and you can't talk about Matthew 24 and not talk about preterism. So, but it's basically, and again, do I have a description of this video? Maybe I don't, but I made a video about it. It's if you search for Tom Mills End of the World, you'll find my video. It's a nice primer about what it is, but it's basically that all that stuff people talk about happening in the end times and all that already happened, and it was actually not referring to the end of the world, but the end of the temple, end of the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. We're probably not going to get super in depth here because some people will just tune out, and we got a lot of people who are not Christians here, and for all you people who are not and we're watching and putting up with all our Bible talk, hey. That's why I love you. So I certainly appreciate that. And my ultimate goal is I really, really, really like Daniel and his family. And there's really godly people, very wonderful, good friends. And I want to help him get going with his YouTube channel as much as possible. So understand they believe the Bible already happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, if it grows, I'll obviously put more effort and attention towards it. Because right now my audience sort of expects just to tune into the Bible studies. That's really what it's for. The reason why we actually do it, just to let you guys know, is we live in Florida. And in Florida, the population of your town typically doubles between November and March of each year, because everybody from the north comes down to escape the cold, the snowbirds, right? And so the snowbirds were really enjoying our Bible studies, and they were going to get cut off during the middle of a series that we were doing. And so they said, is there any way that we can basically keep watching this, or tune in and get this material while we're gone? Can you record it and send us a CD or something? And so I was like, well, I got a YouTube channel, let me just live stream it to there. And so that's kind of how that all got started. So that's what the channel's mainly for now, is just to live stream those Bible studies and give people an opportunity. Yeah, and it really picked up whenever a lot of people were staying home during during the coronavirus and stuff like that from church. They would tune in with us, and so that was pretty helpful. But yeah, so we're in Southwest Florida, right? So if you want to come visit.
Here, Kathy Ponder's kind of bringing up preterism a little bit. It sounds like a good thing to feel a little bit. She says the problems with preterism are many. For one thing, God's covenant with Israel is everlasting, Jeremiah 31:32-36, and there will be a future restoration of Israel, Isaiah 11:12. My initial thought of that is, I agree. God's covenant with Israel is everlasting, but the deal of the covenant is it's two ways. You got to have faith. You can't, Tel Aviv is unfortunately the homosexual capital of the world, which, it's not. They don't believe in Jesus. They don't believe Jesus is the Christ, and so you can't have a covenant with God only on His end. It's a two-way street. You got to have faith. That's my first thought. What about you, Daniel?
Yeah, when talking about the restoration of Israel, especially, what's intriguing is that, if you read the gospel accounts, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the birth of Jesus is only mentioned in two of them, Matthew and Luke. But there is something that's mentioned in every single one, and that's the ministry of John the Baptist. And when you look at John's ministry, it always begins with a quotation from Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 3. And the entire context of that is about the restoration of Israel. Because see what the gospel writers saw, and what Paul and others in the New Testament saw, is that through their ministry of teaching the gospel, they were actually in the process of restoring Israel. So, there's I totally believe in the restoration of Israel, and a lot of the passages that Paul and Peter and John cite actually point to that reality. It's a restoration in Christ. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, that's a good one. But covenant's two ways. You got to keep your end of the covenant. You can't God doesn't keep it. The thing is, if my people humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, if it's not I will just do this for you because I'm cool. It's an if. There's something that's required in us. It's faith. You can't get to heaven without Jesus, unfortunately. Well, fortunately. I don't know. Unfortunately, I probably should have chose those wordings. But post another link.
Yeah. So somebody was asking what times do I stream? Like I said, we stream our church services, and so it's like 9:30 a.m. on Sundays Eastern time, 9:30, 10:30, 5 p.m., and then that's all on Sunday, and then 6:30 on Wednesday. So we just every time we get together, we just hit start streaming and go. So.
And and they're very good, and I liked it. The few times I've got in there that I can say something. You're like, oh yeah, hey, we can talk back and forth a little bit, and that's been fun. So it's not like it's kind of like our Bible studies. We actually do Bible studies too on Tuesdays. Cool. And you might have to buy another again for one of those sometime. That might be fun. We're just about to finish Romans, but
we just started Romans. So.
Oh, did you? Oh,
yeah, we're like in verse 18, I think, right now.
Oh, so. Fun! So that'll be fun for people who've been doing the Bible study from our channel. You can go and see what Daniel Rogers you got to say on it, which is great. So, how fun is that?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And the cool thing is all the live streams are archived, and so even if you miss it because you go to church on Sundays, it's not like it's inaccessible to you.
Yeah, you can still go back and catch it.
Yep, right.
I think probably most people actually watch at least our Bible studies that way. So we have a decent amount, probably have 100, 150 each Bible study, but afterwards, thousands of people watch it. So
Yeah, right on, right on. Well, hey, so you're talking about the computer business. So so kind of talk me through that a little bit. I love to write. I write articles every day, and people on Facebook love them. Right, Tom?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Me and him have some mutual frenemies that we like to give a hard time to.
Yeah, but well, anyway, so how would having like a stay-at-home business like that, or like a home-owned business or self-owned business,
Yeah.
how would that help me in being able to continue that kind of ministry?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you work from home, you can pretty much do things as you like, and
Right.
so that's nice. And my whole schedule is dictated by my appointments of the day, and so I have anywhere between 2 and 5 appointments every day. But in between those times, I got all kinds of time to do all kinds of things. So I say all kinds of time. I'm driving,
Yeah.
but I can, even when I'm waiting for Windows to load on, I can check my Facebook post or whatever, approve some comments, that sort of thing. So you
Yeah.
kind of multitask.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Well, yeah. That's it's so cool that you're able to do that because you're able to be a stay-at-home dad, a Bible study leader, and you can be Tom the computer guy. It's like you're.
Oh man, I'm really so blessed. I was just talking to him today. Actually, today my car broke down today, which you guys have been following the channel. I mean, I didn't tell you this, Daniel, but my car, my little red Pontiac Sunfire that it gets 30 miles to the gallon. I've run my whole business on it. Me and my wife bought it in 2000. It was 2001. We were
Oh wow.
brand new, just getting married, and so we bought this. And I blew the engine. Oh, how long ago was that? 6 months ago. And I was like, oh man, and I was, my wife had just died, and so then I'm thinking, oh man, the car's gonna go gone too, and we bought that together, and I was just lamenting the emotional aspect of losing, the car, and the washer and dryer broke, and all kinds of things. But anyways, someone was watching the stream who happens to be a friend of mine in one town over, and he went and got a tow truck, and he kidnapped the car, and bought an engine on his own with his own money and put the engine in and fixed it all up, and he put stickers on the side so it looks like Lightning McQueen now. It looks like I'm driving Lightning McQueen around everywhere.
Cool.
And but anyways, today it was overheating. It was overheating like crazy. Like, oh man, and I realized it was low on oil, and so I had a friend. My next appointment was actually for the kid's uncle, Andrea's uncle. And so I thought, well, I'm going to be late. Well, I need to get some oil. And actually, he said, well, how about I bring you some oil? And so he did. He brought me some oil, and I got to his house, but it started overheating again. So he ended up taking me home. I kind of got off on a tangent there. But we were talking about that whole aspect of being, if I didn't have my own business, I would not be able to handle my wife passing away and having to deal with the children and the housework and all this stuff, and
Yeah.
being able to just change your schedule however you want.
Right.
For instance, Thursdays we homeschool still, and so Thursdays I stay home and on the mornings and homeschool with the kids. And if I need to cancel an appointment, I can cancel it or reschedule it, and it just leaves you so much freedom to do, whatever needs to be done.
Talking about your car breaking down. So my wife was in college. We kind of got into a situation. I won't get into all of it right now, but we were both in college, but something sudden occurred, and so I had to stop attending again so for the second time, and because it was either hey, it's either me or her, right? Going to school,
Right.
and I wanted her to be able to finish out her degree because she was a little bit closer than I was, and so I went into work, and she continued school, and so we didn't really have that much money, and so we drove some hand-me-down cars basically, and
Yeah.
we had this one car, this Ford Taurus, where we had gallons of water jugs in the trunk so that we could pull over and fill the water tank back up.
Oh
'cause
man,
we'd
I
get
know
overheated.
those. I know that, man.
And so when she finally got her teaching job, it was a huge breath of fresh air to be able to turn that thing in for hardly anything at all and come away with with a good car for the
Something
first time
else.
in our life. Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
it's so good. So
That feels so awesome. On ours, I've driven it our entire marriage and beyond now, and I was it was almost to 400,000 miles, and I was dying to
Wow.
get it to 400,000.
Yeah.
And so it's at 397 now. It broke down at 395,
Oh.
and now I'm hoping it's definitely going to. I left it at the shop, there this weekend, but I got a ride home from Andrew's uncle. But so, anyways, it's funny how those things go. But living stuff like that, living low debt, is how we were able to stay in business.
For sure.
Not having to do too much. So don't need to survive too long.
Oh wow! Hey, somebody has a question. It's about the preterist stuff, but it's pretty mild.
Sounds good.
They want to know how I came to the preterist belief, and
Oh,
was
yeah.
it something that I was raised with, or came to believe later? Yeah. So I told you about that job I had preaching, the very first one, where I would, basically was working all the time, going to school all the time, and then preaching on Sundays and Wednesdays. So about 2 years into that, I got offered to go to my home congregation where my dad and my granddad were sort of the leaders, like we call them the elders, and I went from having to work, 7 8 hours at Walmart a day, go to community college all day, to being able to just study the Bible all day long.
How awesome is that? Yeah.
And take care of the other ministry duties. Well, about 2 months into it, I started coming across all these statements in the Bible, like some of you will still be alive when the kingdom comes, and some of these things will happen in this generation, and the end of all things is at hand. And I was going like, okay, what's happening here? Like, they didn't tell me about this in Bible study. And so,
Yeah.
when I changed my mind, it took me about 6 or 7 months. I started reaching out, to see if anybody else believed this or if I was just going insane. And that's when I met Tom's friend, Don Preston. And when I finally reached that conclusion and talked about it for the first time, I'd been talking about it the whole time because I didn't know any better. I didn't realize it was such a bad thing. But when I came out and started, saying, hey, this is what I believe, then my family asked me to either resign, change my mind, or be fired. And so I lost contact with all of my, and they sent letters to all of my friends at all the other churches telling them that I was a wolf in sheep's clothing and all this. And so, yeah, I lost my entire world in a space of about a couple months, 3 or 4 months. And so, yeah, that's how I came to it. I came to it kicking and screaming. And,
That's crazy. But I didn't realize that you sparked onto it on your own. Just
Yep.
just going over the time texts.
Yeah, in fact, I went to a guy. Well, there's more details than that. I'll just tell you.
Sure.
I'll tell you in private, Todd. But
Yeah.
I went to a guy, a friend of mine, with it, and I was like, "Hey, are you seeing what I'm seeing in some of these? Like, do you see this?" And he said, "Oh, so you're a preterist?" And I was like, "A whaterist?" Because I didn't even know the word. I didn't go to seminary or anything like that. I was
Sure.
trained. I was trained from home how to read and study the Bible and give lessons. And so that's when I started looking into it and was like, "Oh, okay, wow. So this is a lot. This is actually called something, and there are people who believe this." So.
You're not alone.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's how that happened.
It sounds pretty crazy a lot. So, I mean, if you're just now catching what we're talking about here, I'd encourage you to just suspend all of your thoughts there and go check out my other video on the end of the world.
Yeah.
It goes over it in a very easy to understand way, and it's a big topic, and
It's huge.
It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
I think it's a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really change much of your outlook. It's not like it's a salvation issue or any sort of a, essential doctrine, but it certainly brings a lot of peace when you're not, waiting for, the end of the world to come. And, not that things couldn't get bad sometimes. Heck, these days, I keep wondering that, but it's not what they were talking about in the Bible. What got me was Matthew, was it 10:25? Then you will not finish going through the cities of Israel before the Son of Man comes.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
That was like, what do you do with that? Like some of the other ones, you can try to dance around. It's like, what?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what happened to me. It was once I started seeing it, like going, oh, wow, these passages exist, and I don't need to ignore them any longer. Then they started popping up everywhere and in the most unsuspecting of places,
Sure.
And it just snowballs and just it destroys you, because it's not like something that you're going, hey man, let me, like, this is awesome. You're going, wow, everything I believe, I don't know if it's right anymore.
Sure.
But here's what it did for me, Tom, and I don't know much about your background, but the fellowship in which I was raised, if you didn't agree with every little thing that we believed, you were just going to hell, and you were
Yeah.
just out, and you weren't even a real Christian. And you've probably seen some of that, people commenting on my posts saying that sort of thing. Well, what this did was make me go, wait, if I was wrong about this huge thing, then man, I gotta have grace towards people who I think are wrong about little small things.
Sure.
It really makes you
And
go,
what else am I wrong about?
yeah, I was about to say, it makes you go, who, what else am I wrong about? And so, it just really, it's such a humbling thing to do, to go through a paradigm shift like that. So.
That's how it was for me too, and I kind of went the other way. I definitely internalized, not that you went that way, but I mean I didn't. Some people will go looking for information. I've used the expression a few times that sometimes you got to have an open mind, but not so open that your brain falls out. And a lot of times when you start looking at things like this, and you realize, oh my gosh, I was wrong my whole life. And I like you brought up paradigm shift, because that's exactly what it is. It's not just changing your mind. When you have something you've believed and held on to tightly your whole life, and then you have to change your mind on that.
Right.
It takes something inside of yourself to be able to say, okay, I was wrong for all these years, and you have to soften yourself in a way that I think sometimes can be, dangerous, because you start to just not trust anything, and before you know it, you get off into one ditch and you believe this weird stuff, because if you were wrong about this, then I must be wrong about everything. You have to be, not possibly,
right.
But absolutely must be.
Yeah, exactly. It really makes you rethink everything, and that has the double effect of like making things that you believe that you come to the conclusion that they were correct, they become even more firm, and strong. And so it's really cool there. And I think a reason why my family had such an averse reaction to my beliefs is because it challenges everything that you know. I mean, it really does make you rethink. It's something like 1 every 26 verses.
Sure.
But that's why that's why I've been posting a lot of the stuff I've been posting lately on my website, and where I do my daily articles, and on my Facebook page, is because I know so many people in the Church of Christ who have that mindset, which is the fellowship in which I was raised, and I just desperately want them to see a little bit of grace in their life, and more importantly, I think a grace in the life of other believers. So that's that. But.
If you want a fun way to learn about this and not feel too offended, what I did early on is I started watching debates.
Oh yeah.
Debates on it, and it's so entertaining because you can root for your guy. And so a few people that I've talked to about it, we watch a debate because they root for their guy, you root for your guy, or whatever, and you get a lot of learning done. And I think a lot of times it's just hard to defend. It's hard. I mean, the regular traditional view is very, very hard to defend. But either way, we don't have to talk about preterism the whole time. But it's a really fun topic. And if you want to know more, you definitely can check out Daniel Rogers' channel. He's got a lot more preterist videos than I do. I've got a good primer one. It goes through Matthew 24 very well that I really like. But beyond that, it's just reading the Bible for what it is. And that's kind of what ended up happening to me, is that I basically stopped listening, to any preachers, and stopped watching shows, stopped everything. I just decided I'm going to go back to what the Bible says. If this is what the Bible says about this, then that's the only thing I can trust anymore, and I just got to read it for what it says. And I honestly was ashamed that I could have read these verses my whole life and somehow not got it, I suppose. And to be able to, try to undo those things.
Yeah, and again, it makes you realize that if you could be wrong, then other people could be wrong, and we ought to have grace, towards each other.
Absolutely, that's something probably I still
growing,
got to learn more myself.
Me
talking
too.
about the buddy,
Yep,
and
that's right.
But there's lines, I guess. But at the same time, definitely to have grace and to be understanding of where everybody's at, and especially on things that are not salvation related, and it's not terribly, what you believe about the end anyways. So
well, that's like, I don't remember what the position was, but whenever you talked to me a couple of years ago and you were like, hey, I wanted to share with you something, that a lot of people don't like it when I share it with them, and I was like, yeah, go ahead, go for it. And that's because I've been allowed to be wrong about, I'm now allowed to be wrong about things, and and other people are allowed to be right about things. It just doesn't have to be me. So,
sure.
So,
Absolutely.
You try to learn how to accept truth regardless of what the source is or who the source is, So
yeah, for sure.
Tough lesson to learn though. But hey, so I have one child. You have 9. What
Yes.
what was there a point where like adding another child to the family wasn't this just huge life transforming like paradigm shifting thing? Was there a
Sure.
number?
Well, for me, I mean, it's funny how much your parents' beliefs influence you, even though you say they don't,
Yeah.
right? No matter what you say, you're going to be basically like your parents. That tends to be true.
Right.
And so, I grew up, my parents had two kids, and then they had a third later on. And so I grew up thinking you should have two kids with room for an accident. That was my official stance.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I always thought. And so, yeah, when we had two kids, and Andrew always wanted a whole bunch of kids. And so I was like, oh, well, we'll see how it goes and this and that. But after we got to three, yeah, I had to, it wasn't like, oh yeah, let's have 12.
Right.
It was, everyone was a growing of my faith, I think, for just one more child.
Okay.
And it's
Yeah.
just like, I would come, I read all the verses and talk about, arrows in the quiver, and, blessed is the man whose table is surrounded by sons, and, all these types of things. And so I would say, yeah, I think that's what God wants, and I think that's what we should do. We'll have one more. And in my mind, I'm thinking maybe that's the last one. I think that's probably, but every single one was always the last one. And so
Yeah, right.
after like 5, it didn't really make a difference.
Okay, so
it's-
5.
yeah,
that kinda,
5 was probably, it's like after, I mean, 3 was the hardest, I think. 3 was absolutely the hardest.
interesting.
2 was harder than 1, and
Right.
3 was like, okay, you got one here, that dude's playing in the street. What do I do? And you have, once you have to kind of lower your, you have to chill out some. You can't maintain the same level of helicopter as you do with just 1 or 2. So after that, I started to mellow out. It got easier.
Right.
It got more fun. They started helping each other out, cleaning things, and those types of things, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so right now with one child, like tonight, he's going to turn 14 months tomorrow, and he's walking all over the place and dumping over cat bowls, and stuff like that. And so it's like, how could we ever have 2, right? But I remember when we had, whenever we had just the 4 of us, biological kids in my parents' house, and we added the additional 3. That was a huge step,
Oh,
That's
sure.
3 more ball practices. And,
All at the same time.
yeah. And so adding the additional 3 though later wasn't really that big of a deal. It was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. So
I think it's fun because I'm going to talk from just a guy's perspective. This is a philosophy I've thought about for a while.
right,
I think guys especially have a tendency to be centered around themselves. I think women are naturally gifted to be nurturers and caretakers, and they got love to give, and God's blessed them in that way. And I think as a guy, that's not necessarily your first instinct. And so I think when you're going through high school especially, that's one of the reasons why we handle our kids the way we do. I mean, our kids, each of the older kids, they all have a bill. I mean, Thomas pays the gas bill, Asher buys the bread, Judah buys the eggs, and they all contribute as part of the family. And we treat it that way. And as a result, I think what ends up happening a lot of times, especially with a man, as he's in high school, like for me, when I went through my first really good job, I was literally working at a game store, and I was the manager, and I could play games pretty much all day. I had a dream job.
yeah,
And I paid really well, and I was living at home. And my parents gave me a car because my grandma passed on a car to me. And so I had no bills at all, and I was making tons of money, and I blew it
yes,
like crazy. And so when I finally got married, it was more of a shock to just all of a sudden say, well, you're living for somebody else. This isn't my money anymore. It's all of our money. And I
Right.
think as a tendency, you can still be selfish. Like when you
Yes.
first get married, you can still pretty much just live for yourself. You can pretty much still just buy what you want. Yeah, you got to take care of your wife, I suppose, but you can still pretty much do what you want to do. And this is an immature teenager thinking that I'm portraying here.
right,
And then even when you have, I think, a single child, you can still do that. I mean, you really can't because you're the single stay-at-home dad, or not single. You're the stay-at-home dad.
right,
And but I think a lot of men can pretty much just leave it to the wife and just go on with their regular old life, being just as selfish as they were before.
Yeah,
And so,
it can be a temptation for sure.
oh, for darn sure. And then,
Yeah.
but eventually, once you have, I think, two or three kids, that's not an option. You
Right.
can't do that. You can't slide anymore. There's too many things that need to be done, too many fires need to be put out, fights that need to be broken up,
You know,
all those types of things. And I think
there's
it fills you up.
so many stereotypes about a stay-at-home dad. One of the things that me and Caden do every single day is I put him in the stroller and we take a 2 mile walk, and we'll go down and I'll sit and get a coffee real quick, and then or some, and they'll bring him out like some sausages or something to eat, snack on or whatever, and then we'll head back to the house, and that's one of my favorite things to do. When I first started doing it, all of the regulars there would say things like, "Oh, the wife out of the house today? You got to babysit today, huh?" And I'll be like, "Nope, not babysitting. This is my baby. Not
That's
getting
right.
paid for this."
That's right. Yes.
And so I kind of shook up the cultural norms in Arcadia, Florida, there for for a little bit.
So that's
But,
awesome. That's what it should
yeah.
be. I mean, you should be able to. You dads need to be involved, and
Right.
the idea that dads get to skate free
Yeah.
is just not a healthy dynamic. And
Yeah, so I still do a lot of work. I do website designs and things like that on the side. It's
you do
just,
website design?
Yeah,
Why am I not giving you business?
that's a great question. Why aren't you giving me business?
I'm always giving business to people for websites. I used to do websites,
Yeah.
and as I got to be more busy, I stopped doing things that were hassle.
Oh yeah.
And that was one of them. I think I was waiting for a guy to give me pictures of his products or pictures of his store, background information,
Right.
and he just never got back to me. And I'm like, I had to call like every week. Did you get me your stuff yet? No, I was really busy. Okay, I'll call you next week. And I finally
Yeah.
just said, I'm not doing that anymore. But anyways, I've given business to a guy I know, here in town, but I've given people out of state, business before with websites. I might have to, pass along.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mainly work
We'll
with
talk about
WordPress sites, but yeah, I've worked with a lot of churches and individuals who have like Bible-based blogs and things like that. But I've actually been taking a lot of classes recently on marketing and SEO and stuff, and so yeah, I'm
Nice.
becoming a lot more proficient in it now that I've started to problem solve and stuff like that. So
Boy,
it's been
I
a lot
know
of fun.
I know a guy who's doing website design now for a living, and he's using like one of those canned website places. It's like
Yeah,
I think he's
WordPress
using
or-
Squarespace or something.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
And he's just selling. He's putting them together, but it's a what you see is what you get style thing, and it's not no coding involved. And
That's
he's doing pretty well that way.
WordPress is kind of like that. You do
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to,
yep.
yeah, that's the one I use.
It's a
You
little
do,
more complicated. That's nice. You get a little more freedom with WordPress.
yeah,
you
you
can add
have all the
stuff.
plugins, and
Yeah.
you have to go in and edit the like CSS and stuff sometimes, and add in your custom
Right.
HTML and Java stuff. So you still have that.
I have actually a church that I'm having trouble. They have a WordPress site, and I haven't figured out where it went. It's been forwarded, this and that, but we're having no one knows the passwords and stuff. But maybe you might be able to help us out. But
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Um, some people get disgruntled and hold the passwords hostage, though, and there's not much you can do at that point.
this is for a Presbyterian church, and they lost. They had this turnaround, and so
Yeah.
no one knows who they are. And I can get into the site. I can get into the FTP, but I don't know how to pull up the WordPress stuff.
Yeah, you should. Well, we're kind of getting into the tech talk, but I was going to say if you get into the FTP, you can just download the site and then just re-upload it to a new, a new hosting site if you have to do
Yeah.
something like that, But
Yeah, and I did download it, but they use it still, and so they have one username on WordPress that they can post stuff, but it's not the administrator level access one or something like that. I don't remember. I don't.
Yeah.
But
Well, sometimes people in that situation just have to work with what they got,
absolutely, absolutely.
Oh man, yeah. In the world of tech, you kind of run into all kinds of unique situations, and
Yeah.
a lot of it is pedcac issues,
Sure. Well, here's a good question. Do either of you hold to the creeds and confessions?
So here's something about the Church of Christ that you should know. And again, that's what I was raised in. They kind of split off from the rest of the evangelical world specifically because of creeds and confessions. And so I didn't even know any of the names of the creeds until I became a preterist, because people would be like, "Oh, do you subscribe to the Westminster Confession of Faith?" And I'd be like, "I have no idea. Let me Google it."
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I
Yeah.
know a few of them, but
In fact, in the Church of Christ, they have a slogan: "No creed but Christ." And so, yeah, unfortunately, we're not a very liturgical heavy church, and we're not a very creed based or confession based church. And so, now that does not mean that we don't have creeds and confessions of faith. They just go by different names that are a little bit more subtle, like like preaching schools. It's our
yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. The problem, I think. I think about the times when they started all the confessions and the creeds, and because they were in a time of a lot of turmoil and trying to maintain, some sort of, uniformity, I suppose. And so it born out of something good. But I think a lot of times, they put you in a hole and they don't allow you to, to study if you must subscribe to this or that. I think most of them have nothing but good stuff in them. I mean, it's not necessarily. As a general rule, they're fine,
right.
But there might be little things here and there. But
yeah, it's just not something I grew up with, And so when people ask me about it, it always kind of like I have to think about it for a second, like, wait a minute, what are we talking about here, So yeah, creeds and confessions, never was trained in them, haven't really studied them since. I guess if I got into a situation where it was really important to a friend of mine, I might look into it more. But to this point, I haven't really had much use.
I don't know many people that know them anyways. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've read them and I think, I pretty much agree with most all of this. But it's not like I know the average person. I don't think knows them at all. There are some denominations that they have them memorized and that kind of thing. But that's not me.
Yeah, just a totally different environment. So.
Yeah.
Which, the people that ask that question probably wouldn't be familiar with half the stuff my fellowship cares about, anyways. So, some of the main talking points we have might not even be on their radar. And so everybody has those kind of things that it's just totally foreign to them. In fact, man, I'm writing a little book about my personal journey because some people have, been interested in that. And I shared it with a friend of mine who does not have the same background that I do. And he's like, man, I know enough about you from conversations with you to kind of get what's going on, but some of this stuff is wacko. You've got to explain some of this because it's normal. It's normal to me, right? And so,
it's good to get another outside opinion on what you need to flesh out.
Yeah, it's interesting. We all assume that we live in the normal, but that's rarely the case.
Yeah. I agree with you, Kathy. She says, the first I think I learned at Bible college is that the main disagree with people in regards to definition and labels. I have learned to accept everyone and listen to the Holy Spirit. I think that's always a good rule of thumb. Yep. Earliest creed of Christianity, Jesus is Lord, originated in the writings of St. Paul. I'm okay with that one.
Oh yeah. And what you might call a creed or confession, we might not even know to call it that because we didn't even use that language.
That's not what we use. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So there's like the hymns in Colossians. Never would have learned about stuff like that, But
yeah.
It's just a different background, different experience.
What was I didn't realize I was doing some research. Is it in Philippians? And there's a poem in Philippians? I did not know that there was a poem in Philippians.
Well, a lot of our Bibles don't even allow you to know that because it's just block text.
Absolutely, and it's English, so it doesn't have any possible flow or rhyme. It's just all the translation or whatever.
Yeah, and so I appreciate the versions that sort of space out what is supposed to be poetry or a hymn or something like that. But
Yeah, for sure. I actually was. I've been taking the kids to a youth group.
Cool.
And it's just a non-denominational church, I think. But they're. I go to this particular youth group because they have something for every age. So they got something for all my kids, and then the adults go into a class, which is nice. And I got to talk a little bit with the preacher about. Have you ever heard the theory that Philippians was written near the end of Paul's life, like when he was about to be killed right before 2 Timothy?
Nope. I always heard it was right in there with Colossians and Ephesians and Philemon.
Yeah, so it's really, really interesting. And so we actually have, when I first started doing the audio Bible, we played the audio Bible out through our whole house. I think I've told you that before.
Yeah.
And we were trying to do it in chronological order, and I thought for sure there'd be like some scroll, some Rosetta Stone that told you exactly the order that all these things go, but there isn't.
No.
None of that exists. It's all just by understanding the text and the context and all that sort of a thing, the audience. But some of the things that are interesting in Philippians, like in 2 Timothy. It's much more heavy-handed. In the 2 Timothy, he's like, so-and-so's betrayed me, and this guy has done that. He's like being hard on some people. And the only other book that happens is in Philippians. And it's permeated by death again. To live is Christ, and to die is gain. My desire to depart. All these types of things. And so he's really depressed. And it's also written to Philippians, which is Luke's home church. And we can see, like in Acts, that Luke was with Paul during his first Roman imprisonment.
Right.
And so, and then to write to Philippians a whole epistle and not mention Luke in the slightest way is really interesting. Which I've come full circle, and I find no possible way it wasn't written near the end of his life. And then at the end of Philippians, he's complaining about his coworkers. You guys stop fighting. You guys keep doing this and keep doing that.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of interesting phraseology that it has in common with 2 Timothy. But I just found that fascinating.
Interesting. But, maybe that might be a little deep, but so there's this thing I call the crescendo of imminence. Crescendo is the musical term. It gets louder and louder and louder, right?
Yep.
And so if I were you, maybe go through the epistles and track those imminence statements, and you'll notice that they get more and more intense, as they're written. And I had this theory that you could order them.
And his writing changes.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to preach the gospel to all the nations, and we're going to do this. I know I'll be released soon, and I'm going to come and see you. And then it's like, in 2 Timothy, it's like, I know that none of you alive will ever see me again. And it's just like, oh man, that's dark. And in Philippians, it's the same way. He gets very dark, and depressed almost in some of his statements. And
interesting. Well,
I never
heard that before.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. But and who knows? It's just fun to have suspicions and to flesh those things out. Once I realized that there's no set way these things go, we have actually our family chronological order, the order we think things go. Using different these types of things. And of course, I put Philippians.
So let me ask you this: when you do the Old Testament, the Hebrew Scriptures, how do you order the minor prophets? Like not specifically, but
whether or not it's when he gave the prophecy or when it was being fulfilled.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth. It depends on the context, because ultimately ours is being geared towards the audio Bible, and so it's making a good listening experience. And so I think if there is a place where you see the prophecy fulfilled, I think it's good to have that prophecy, beforehand and be able to hear it rather than just when it was written. And it becomes really confusing, like with Daniel, because there's weird breaks in Daniel.
Yeah, well, Daniel's not in chronological order anyways,
Well, yeah, and some of it's in Aramaic, Some of it's in Hebrew, some of it's in Aramaic, and that's just weird, And
do you put the minor prophets like in between section breaks and like the histories, or do you keep them as?
I put them pretty late. I have to look at the actual order again, but they're pretty late, right before Jesus. And I put Micah in there and all those prophecies about birth of Christ. I'll put them close to Jesus.
Right. Like
Isaiah needs to be chopped up a whole bunch.
Okay. So you do chop them up when you get a chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. That's what I
don't chop up verse by verse. But chapter by chapter, I want to keep them. All of our sound files are in their chapter files. So
that's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
Oh, it is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. It's fun to hear, the Psalms David wrote when he's fleeing from his enemies at the time when Saul is fleeing from his enemies. And it's just it adds a lot of. It's just really enjoyable.
Man, for somebody that was fleeing from his enemies, he had a lot of time to write songs.
Darn right he did. And I always wonder how that was. And it's like, there's one psalm when he was in the cave hiding from Saul, and he has this big old long poem. It's just like, how long was he in that cave? Or was it really fast, or did he write this later about the time when he was in the cave?
Right.
I always think about those types of things.
Yeah. What did he write it on? Did he memorize it?
Yeah,
A lot of fun.
exactly. And we actually got off topic a little bit because we were talking about the depression with the preacher I was talking to. I have a theory that,
Oh.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No. I was. Yeah. You reminded me that this conversation was going somewhere at one point.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is all about tangents. So
Yeah.
I have a theory that King David was a grouchy old man. Well, it's interesting because remember when he was fleeing from Absalom,
Yeah.
and then Shimei is calling curses down on him. And then after David comes back, they're like, "Here's Shimei, shouldn't he be put to death?" And David's like, "What do I have in common with you, sons of Zeruiah? I should never be put in these guys. No more death today. No, I swear by the Lord you will live." Then when David's on his deathbed, he tells Solomon, "Hey, you have Shimei with you. Make sure you bring down his head to the grave in blood."
Right.
And all these different types of it. He tells Solomon to kill like 5 people that he told how righteous he was for letting him, be spared later on. And then the whole story with Bathsheba. Remember when they were going to take the throne,
Right.
and had to come up with this. Samuel comes down and is like, "Hey, okay, what's going to happen?" Not Samuel, Nathan. Go in there and tell him that did you make this guy ruler of the kingdom? And then I'll come in and I'll confirm what you said right in front of him. And they have this little plot
Right.
to tell David that this kingdom's being taken from him. And why didn't they just go tell him, "Hey, you guys are doing this"? But it's like they almost had to, work him up to the idea. So, anyways, there's a couple of the verses it's based on, but
Yeah.
I keep wondering,
Lot of politics involved.
grouchy old man.
Right. Oh,
And,
so here's one of mine. We were going through Genesis, and we got to Genesis 9. Where Noah gives the curse, right?
Oh,
And I said, "Listen, guys, I don't know if Noah, laying out in his tent, drunk, naked, passed out, was in any position to be handing out curses."
I got a whole. I don't know. I probably shouldn't bring that up right now.
And so
I have some other theories about that night. With his daughters, or I'm thinking about Lot.
that
I'm
was a
thinking
lie.
about-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thinking about Lot, but I don't think you can sleep through things and not know when they lie down, not know when they get up. I don't see how that works. But
Yeah. Well, that's.
who knows? That's what it says. So we're gonna go with it.
Yeah, and
You're like, oh.
it just one thing that does show you though is that the Bible is full of imperfect people.
Oh, absolutely.
Which really makes you go, "Oh, thank you, Lord." Because for so long I basically demanded perfection for myself, and it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, listen, I love what we're doing. I'm having a lot of fun, and I want to
Yeah.
do it again. But I just got a text from Laura, and she needs me to bring her something in the room. She's with the baby, so.
Oh, yeah, no problem. It's about an hour anyway, so it's a good level to keep this. So
Okay, perfect.
Hour, so this works out perfect. You want to just call it call it a night?
Yeah, sure.
Again,
Just
Roger, he's a good friend of mine. I don't recommend preachers. How many preachers have I recommended on this channel? None. So but I can wholeheartedly recommend Daniel Rogers, and he's a very good guy. And let's try to get him to 1,000 subscribers. So I'm going to post his link again. There'll be a comment below. Do us a solid and go subscribe to him, and let's get him kicked off. So
Yep. Hey, we're at 627 right now, so we've already grown like a ton tonight already.
that's awesome.
Yeah, like
And
over
there's
100 for sure.
Yeah, my viewers say 0 right now. I'm not sure how many people are on it right now, but someone post something. But alrighty, well, we'll do this again. Maybe we have some. I don't know what we're going to do after Romans, but maybe it'd be fun to do something when we get up to some big chapters. God, heaven forbid, we do Thessalonians or something.
Sure.
Need you to come by and help us out on it.
Yeah, I'll offer whatever I can, I guess.
Yeah.
This 28-year-old guy from Florida will do what he can, man.
Oh well, I just like bouncing stuff off you because you're not afraid to say you're wrong or to follow the string wherever they lead, and I think that's the heart of an honest Bible scholar who can actually chase those things out is all that you need is a heart to serve the Lord and do what's right and 250. So that's about what he's sticking at. So.
Yeah, man.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Don't forget to go check out his channel, and we will be putting out new video on Sunday. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you guys then. See you, Daniel.
All right, see you, Tom.